Hello and welcome to this Sage 50 Cloud Accounts Fast Start session. This is Fast Start 2 Get Going, and it's designed to build on the agenda of Fast Start 1 Get Ready, which went through the basics of getting your company up and running in the software. It's also designed to assist those users who've maybe been using Sage 50 Cloud Accounts for a little while and want to know a little bit more about some of the more in-depth features. We'll have a look at the agenda for today's session. So firstly, we're looking at invoice printing and emailing. So on Fast Start 1, we look at raising batch invoice transactions for your customers. This session will look at raising a printable or emailable invoice template and updating that to create the transaction on the customer. Then once you've invoiced, we'll be having a look at receiving payments from your customers and also making payments across to your suppliers. Following that, we'll look at chasing payments. So if your customers aren't paying you on time and you need to chase those with the customers, how Sage 50 Cloud Accounts can help you with that. So what tools are in there to assist? Then we'll look at bank management, creating a new bank account, the types of new bank account that you can have, and also reconciling a bank. So when your high street bank sends you a statement, checking the transactions that are on there against those that you've raised in Sage. Then we'll look at management reports. So a little bit of in-depth discussion with regards to the balance sheet, the profit and loss and the trial balance, and also a little bit of aged reporting. Then we'll have a look at the report designer, so the tool within the software to allow you to edit reports and layouts to tailor them how you want. And lastly, the VAT return. So as you've raised transactions throughout your day-to-day processing, you've chosen a tax code for each of those transactions. That then informs your VAT return, but with very little extra effort from you. So that is the agenda. I'll switch across to my program now. As you can see, I'm in the invoices and credits module within my system, but I don't have anything listed there. The reason for that is I haven't yet created my first printable or emailable invoice. The reason for that is I wanted to talk about invoice numbering. If you've been using a different system before Sage 50 Cloud Accounts, be that manual or a different accounting system, you may well have been raising invoices with invoice numbers and sending those across to your customers. If you would like Sage 50 Cloud Accounts to continue that numbering, you can specify the number you'd like your first invoice raised with, and it will continue on through there. To do so, I go Settings, Invoice and Order Defaults, Options, and here I can say, well, my invoices start from, so what I'll say is our last raised invoice 122, so I want my first one to start 123. When I save that, it'll also put the same number in the credits because they share a module. But you can also specify for your sales orders, purchase orders, goods dispatch notes, and goods received notes. I'll click OK there, click New Invoice, and I'm ready to complete the invoice screen. So I'm in the data entry screen for an invoice, and in the top right, you can see here that you can specify whether it's an invoice or a pro forma, whether it's product or service. Now, if you've got stock items set up, you can record the sale of those via a product invoice. I'm just going to specify that mine's a service invoice because I don't have any products in this company. What the date of the invoice is, and I'll find the customer. And based on the trading terms I've got to set up with, it's put the due date in there for me. And my invoice number is just showing as auto number. So it's taking that number from the setting I applied earlier. So I can put in what my invoice is for now. So I'm just going to say it's for glassware hire. I'm going to say it's for £500. And when I tab across, notice it adds the VAT on, but I haven't specified a tax code. So where is it getting that information from? That's the edit item line, which is accessible via this grey arrow. So I'll click on that. It brings me up the edit item line window, and you can see in here it's got the posting details for that line. So line by line on this invoice, these can differ, but it asks which nominal code, tax code, and department they're going to. So that's how it knows that's 20% there. I'll click OK, and again I'll put a separate line on for cleaning costs. If I need to, or if I want to even, I can just click on that line and fill the edit item line out here. So I don't have to put the cost on the main invoicing screen. I can put it in here if I want. And again, I can change the nominal code. So not every line has to go to the same nominal code. I'll click OK there. I'm happy with what I've got on that first page of the invoice, so we'll talk about some of these tabs down the side. For order, I can put the order details on. So if it's a different delivery address than the registered address, I can change that in there. I can record the customer order details. And then if I've got any of these custom fields that I want to fill out, I can do that there. And I've got notes. So if I want to fill out those notes, within footer, I can record any carriage. So if I'm charging them for the delivery of the items, I can enter that in here. If I'm offering a settlement discount, if they pay me within a certain amount of days, I can specify the days and the discount there. And for global, if I want to apply the same nominal code, tax code, department and details across the full invoice, so across every line, I can enter that in there. Do be aware that if you don't have a global nominal code in, none of those global details will post. Lastly, I've got the payment tab. And if the customer has provided me payment in advance, perhaps for a deposit towards what they're ordering, I can record that in here. So the reference, the bank account it went into, the amount, and whether it's already received, whether I need to post it here as a payment or account, or whether I want to allocate it directly to this invoice as a sales receipt. So that is how you can fill out the invoicing screen. I'm happy with everything I've got in here, so I'm going to choose Save, Close, and here we can see I've got invoice 123. It's a service invoice with the right date, account, and my total there. Now, if I was to go into the customer's ledger and open the record for the customer, look in her activity, there's no transaction there. Raising that invoice has not updated anything onto the customer's account. That is another step that I need to do when I'm happy with that invoice to then create the transaction in the account. So I'll close that, go back into invoices and credits, and until I do the update to the account, I can make changes whenever I want to that invoice. I can add things, I can take things away, whatever it is I need to do. When I'm satisfied with the invoice and I want to create the transaction, I'll highlight it, and at the top of the screen, I've got this update ledgers. So when I click that, what that's saying is I want you to create the transaction on this customer account based on this invoice. Click on OK. It brings me the update ledgers report, and I can see it's created me 2 transactions because I used 2 different nominal codes. I can close that. The invoice now shows posted yes because it's been posted to the account. And this time if I go into the activity, we'll see that I've got those 2 transactions showing. And that's the main difference between a batch invoice and a printable invoice. So a batch invoice, when you raise it from within the customers module, will create the transaction straight away. There's nothing else that you need to do. When you're using invoices and credits, you create the invoice, but then you have to make sure to create the transaction that you're updating the ledgers there. You can print the invoice from within this invoice and credits module using either quick print to print on a preset layout. So you would choose which of our layouts you want to run when you click quick print, and it will always generate that. Print will show you the long list of all of the different layouts, and you can choose each time which one that you want. We've got quite a few there to choose from. And you can also email. So based on the customer's account, if they've got an email address in and they're set to receive things via email, highlight, click on email, and it will generate that across for you. So you'll have a invoice in your outbox with the invoice attached, ready to send. A few other functions to talk about within here. You've got duplicate. So what you can do, rather than create the same invoice again from scratch, if someone orders the same thing, highlight the invoice you need and click duplicate, And it just means that it'll save you the time of recreating the same invoice because the system can do it for you there. Again, if you do a duplicate and you save, do be sure that if you've duplicated an updated invoice, the new one won't be updated until you highlight and do update ledgers. And what you can also do, if you've raised an invoice and then for some reason possibly the customer has complained, you need to credit the full invoice, simply highlight the original invoice, click credit invoice, and much like duplicate, it'll create the exact same invoice, but this time conversely as a credit note. So again, it's just saving you the time, saving you the energy of manually typing this out again. The system will do it for you, so just let it. So we've had a look at how to record invoices on your customers' accounts, and now we're going to move on to look at how to record that those customers have paid the invoices. So we used update ledgers to create the transaction for the customer, which we can view on the activity tab in their record. Got that transaction there. So we've got SI number 1 and SI number 2, remembering that that invoice was going to 2 different nominal codes. When we're ready to pay these off, we've got the option within the customers module of customer receipt, or alternatively, you can go into the bank accounts and you've got customer receipt at the top there. From this screen, I'm going to use the drop down and I'm going to select the customer, and it will come up with the outstanding balance that they owe me. So here I can see the amount is £840. And now I've got a few different options available to me when it comes to paying this invoice off. The first, I can click into the receipt column, and at the top of the customer receipt screen, I can click pay in full, alternatively press F3 on my keyboard, and what that will do is automatically put the full invoice value in the receipt column to show full payment from the customer. When I save that, it'll allocate that money together and generate me an SR sales receipt transaction. Alternatively, it might be that the customer has part paid me. So rather than say 840, what I can do is just overtype and say, this time they've sent me £500 part payment for that invoice. And again, if I was to save that, close it, have a look in the activity for this customer, they've then got this SR showing against SI number 1 and £500 there. I'll go into another one of my customers now to show you the other possibilities when it comes to customer receipts. So I'll select that customer. They've got a few different invoices outstanding for me. What they might have done is paid me, say, £3,000. What I can do, I can put that in this receipt details box here. So I can say that's £3,000. And I can use this automatic function. So I can click that, and what it will do is automatically spread that across the outstanding invoices until there's none left. So it's been able to fully pay SI number 3 and part pay SI number 4, and it's automatically distributed that £3,000 for me. So I'll click save there, close. When I go back into customer receipt, select the same customer, I've now only got the remaining amount of SI4 and all of SI5 there. What I can also choose to do is pay some off. So I might say that I'm paying £650 of this one off, but because they've paid me on time or perhaps under some kind of agreement, I'm going to give them a discount of 70. So I don't have to pay it in full. I can offer them a discount and I can enter that amount in there. When I choose save there, close out. When I have a look in this customer account, in the activity tab, we'll see an SR, but we'll also see another type of transaction, which is an SD for that sales discount there. The last option I've got when I go into customer receipt is to post some money on the account, but that's not against any invoice. So I can choose, what I'll do is I'll choose Claire this time. She's got her £340 outstanding, so what I'll say is she's paying that in full. So I'm going to just enter that amount there. But she's also sent me £500 for a future order. So I bring her account back up, and this time I can put £500
in this amount box. And when I choose to save that, there's not anything against any invoice, so it'll tell me there's an unallocated check balance of £500. Do you want to post this as a payment on account? So to register money on that account that isn't against any invoice, but is perhaps for future invoices that will be raised, I can just put yes. I'll go back into the customer activity. And within there, we've now got the new transaction type, which is an SA, which shows payment on account. And again, that's showing as outstanding there. In suppliers, you have much the same functionality as you did within customers, this time accessible via the supplier payment option or bank accounts supplier payment. Screen looks a little bit different in that it's got this kind of check looking area at the top, which is where you select your supplier. But just as before, the outstanding transactions will appear in this screen at the bottom. I've got the same function, so I can choose this time the payment column, and I can choose pay in full, save that, and close. And in my supplier record, I can view their activity and I'll have a PP transaction. So that's a purchase payment, showing the amount allocated to that invoice. I'll click close, back into supplier payment, and recall the same supplier. And this time I'm going to show you automatic. So just as we had with the customer, we can say perhaps that they've paid £11,000. Click automatic and it'll distribute that as much as it can. So it's paid the first invoice in full and then £200 off the next one. Save that and close. Again, that'll generate me that purchase payment. Bring up one last time. And again, I can say he's paid me this in full. So I've got £532 for this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give him a discount of 120 for him clearing his account. Save that and close. And lastly, back within supply payment, even if I had outstanding invoices on there, which I don't now, I can still post this payment on account as I could with a customer. So I'll say that he's given me £2,000 towards a future invoice. Save that and it'll tell me it's an unallocated check balance. Do you want to post it as a payment on account? I'll click yes. We'll go into their activity again. And I've got that PA there for the payment on account. And I've got the PD for the earlier purchase discount. So they're the equivalent supplier transactions there. Other options to allow me to show money coming in or out my business are available via bank receipt and bank payment. So I'll post a bank payment first. In my example, I'm just spending some money at my local supermarket to buy tea, coffee and biscuits. Now I don't want to set them up as a supplier, but what I'll do is I'll just post some money directly to a normal code to show the payment for that. So in this example, it's just for refreshments. I'm using my refreshments normal code. Any details that I want can be put in there. And I'll say I spent £13 plus VAT. Save that, close it. And to show money coming in, as an example, if you get a customer who's perhaps a walk-in, buy something from you and you'll never see them again, you don't want to set them up as a customer record in case they clutter up your sales ledger. So what you do is you just post the money directly to a normal code. So I'll say this is for my sales type A. They bought some white wine and they spent £35 plus VAT, and that posts that directly to 4,000, shows money coming into my bank account, but neither affect the sales or purchase ledger there. There's also a really handy feature in here for if you're posting the same kind of transactions every week or month, and that's recurring items. We've got that at the top of the screen, and in my example, I've got a magazine subscription. Now, I don't want to set that magazine up as a supplier, but I do want the system to post my subscription fee for me every month without me thinking that I'll need to do it manually. So I can go into Add. In here, my transaction type is showing as a bank, cash, or credit card payment, so that's fine. The bank it's coming from, I'll choose my current account, and then I'll choose 8201 for my subscriptions. I'm going to post it every 1 month. I've got weeks and days in there as well. Total required postings, I'm just going to leave that as 0 for now. And my start date, the first one's going to come out today. Notice the finish date shows perpetual. If I say there's no total required postings, it will keep raising it every month until I tell it not to. What I could do is say, well, it's a yearly subscription, so there's 12 total postings. When I tab across, it calculates my finish date for me. How much it's for, so I'm going to say it's for £3 plus VAT. So £3.60 for my magazine. Click OK and close. While I'm on the subject of recurring items, you can also set those up in invoices. So we've got recurring items in there. You can't add a new one from just within recurring items. What you would need to do is go into a new invoice, create it for whatever it is you want. I'll do a service invoice here. I'll just put some text in and an amount. And what I can choose to do is then memorize it. And what it says is if you want it to be automatically generated in Sage 50 accounts, fill this detail out. So again, I can say I want it every 1 month. Total required, I'll just put that as 4. So I'm going to raise this invoice 4 times. This is my start date. So again, when I tab out of there, it will automatically calculate the finish date based on the total required postings. And I need to put a reference in here. So I'll just put the reference invoice, save that, save and close. So I didn't have to save this invoice first of all. What I could do is just close it if I didn't want it to appear on my invoice list yet. Then there's a setting within your program to tell the program to alert you to these. And that's held within settings, company preferences, put my password in there, and the parameters tab. And within here, you've got no recurring entries at startup. Without that ticked, when you open your program, if there are any recurring entries due, it will tell you and ask if you want to process them. If you tick this box, the system's not going to alert you. You'll need to check for those manually. So really, if the system can check something for you, why not let it? I would recommend that you just leave this unticked, and any recurring entries you have that are due, it will alert you when you go into the system. As I'm sure we all agree, it can be very frustrating waiting for customers to pay their invoices. Even if you've got clearly agreed trading terms set up, if customers don't pay on time, it can have far-reaching effects on the cash flow, as well as taking time and focus away from other areas of your business. Sage 50 Cloud Accounts comes complete with various ways to identify which of your customers owe you what, and to help you chase the debt simply and effectively. The first thing to point out within the customers module is that I've got one of my customers who is showing in red here, and the reason for that is because they are above their agreed credit limit. So that's just one of the most simple ways that Sage 50 Cloud Accounts will keep you right when it comes to chasing your debts. Any of your customers who exceed the credit limit set within the credit control tab in their record will appear in red. Sage 50 Cloud Accounts comes with 2 default views for the customer's ledger. I'm currently sitting in standard view. You can see that on the top right of my screen, and it's showing me things such as the account name and reference, the balance, credit limit, contact name, telephone number, and whether they receive documents via email or printing. I'll change it now to the Chase debt view. It's still got things such as the account reference and name, contact details are there as well, but now it's showing me how much of the customer balance is overdue. So I can see here for Alan Jones, he's got a balance of £1,800, but none of that has gone past his trading terms of paying me within, say, 30 days. For Max Cross and Claire Smith, they are both showing overdue balances on their account there. It's possible to age your debts using Sage 50 Cloud Accounts, and as you can see within my customer defaults, my aging periods range from 30 to 59 days, 60 to 89 days, 90 to 119 days, and then 120 days plus. Now it's possible to get those to show on this Chase debt screen. A lot of our screens when it comes to the columns along the top are configurable. Simply right click and you can add or take away whichever columns you want. So I'm not going to add my age current, which is less than 30 days. I'm not bothered about those transactions. What I do want to see is anything that's over 30 days, anything that's over 60 days, anything that's over 90 days, and anything that's 120 days old or more. So as you can see, it's given me a breakdown for Claire Smith that she's got some invoices that fall in each of these 3 periods. What I'm also able to do is use the filter in the top of the screen to say, well, just show me anybody who's got something outstanding on their account, anybody who's overdue, so has passed those payment due dates, anyone who's promised me a payment, has got disputed invoices, and so on. So there's a lot of different options just within the screen to help you chase that debt. What we'll have a look at now is the communications tab within the customer record that allows you to log the methods you're using to chase payment from your customers there. As you can see, when I've gone into this account, because Claire is over her credit limit, it has warned me about that. So I can click OK, and I'll go into the communications tab there. In the communications tab, I'm going to choose to add an entry. So this is my first chasing of debt. As you can see, you can choose from telephone, letter, fax, or email, or a meeting. And I'm just going to say it's telephone call, and I'm going to start my telephone timer. So that's a built-in timer within the communications tab. And that's just going to tick along as I talk you through this section. So within here, you enter whatever the subject of the telephone call was. So I'm just going to put late payment. What date it took place, I'm going to say it was yesterday. Who called them? It was our manager user. And it was a telephone call that was made rather than a telephone call received. I can enter who I spoke to. So if I've got different contacts set up, I can enter somebody there, the phone number I called them on, and then the address details. And what was the result of the communication? So I spoke to them, what happened from that? So either I didn't get in touch with them, I left a message, contact made. I've got all of these different areas there. What I can do is I can say, well, what I want to do is I want to now send a letter. I want to send a reminder, a warning, a legal or other letter. It might be that they've promised me a payment. So they might say, well, I'm sorry I'm late. What I'll do is I'll send you across either the whole amount, or they might say I'll send you part of it across. So I could say they've promised to pay me £200. They promised to pay me it on the 19th of September. I'm going to change their account status to closed. And their credit position, I'll just leave it as good. And I'm going to stop that telephone timer. And what it's activated is this invoice option here. So based on your default hourly call charge that you can enter into your company preferences within the settings menu, I can generate an invoice here. So I can put chase debt call for my details. It's got my posting information here, my hourly rate, and how long the phone call was. I can see there that it's for 24 pence. Save that, and it'll say, do you want to generate a service invoice? Now, it's for a very small amount. It might be, if this was an hour-long call, debating something, arranging payment, and possibly providing my banking details. It could be for a lot more. So I'll put yes to that, and it's generated a service invoice for me in my invoicing and credits module. And to view that promised payment, I'm going to click close, close, open my diary, and I can see that it's sitting there for tomorrow, that promised payment for £200, and it gives me the details there. What I can also do is choose to run a letter. So back within the communications tab, add another entry, and I can choose to send them a letter, fax, or email. And I can send a reminder letter, warning letter, or legal letter, but the system needs to know which templates to use. So before I run this letter, I'm just going to click close. I don't want to save the changes to this. Close the record, and I need to configure which letter templates now. So I do that in settings, configuration, and then I go to my credit control tab. And here it says, right, my reminder letter, which format do you want to use? So I choose browse. For this, I'm going to choose my chase letter 1. For my warning letter, I'm going to use chase letter 2. And my legal threat, chase letter 3. I would recommend that you familiarize yourself with the letters within Sage 50 Cloud account so you know which one to use best. When you've configured these, if you're going to be using the communications tab, just choose apply and then close. Back to customers, back to my customer record, into the communications tab, and I'll add an entry now.
So now I'm ready to record that I've sent them a letter. And again, it needs a subject. So for now, I'm just going to put, where is my money? Getting a bit more fed up because this promised me payment and nothing's come in. I can say that it's been a letter that's been received. So a letter, fax or email received. For this, I'm going to say it's a letter that I sent out. And what style was it? I'm going to say it was a warning. Then it asks me what my outcome is. So what I'll say is what my outcome will be is that I'm going to send a legal letter if nothing else comes in. Follow up, I'm going to follow up at this time next week. Their account status, they're currently on bad debt, so I'm just going to leave that as it is, and their credit position is on warning. Who did I send the letter to? Claire Smith, and it's brought the address details through there. And as you can see here, I've got save and generate. So because we've set out which layouts we want the system to use when it knows that it's a warning letter, clicking save and generate will do just that. It'll save the record and generate that letter for me that I can either print or email there. I'll close this now, and I'll close the customer record, saving those changes back into my diary, and I can see the follow-up for where is my money recorded on the 25th there. Back into customers, back into this customer record, and I'll record the last kind of communication, and that's going to be a meeting. So I've got my meeting here. The subject can be final measures maybe. Again, the date, who our contact was, the contact type, so we've got just meeting there, and what the location was there. So you can say your office, your customer's office, or other, and put the location in the notes. Might meet on neutral ground. I'll just say it was at our office. The outcome could be contact made, could be call them back, could be send more letters. More than likely, it's going to be either payment promised or dispute there. So they're going to say, well, we'll pay you, or we're going to dispute the invoices. So again, I'm just going to say that this time payment's been promised of £1,000, and that's due this Friday. What I'm going to do in good faith, I'm going to put them off bad debt, and I'll just put them into closed again. And I'll put their credit position to good, save the record and close. Now I've got promised payments on that account, but it may be that before that promised payment date, they actually pay me anyway. So what I'll do is I'll just go into customer receipt, and I'm just going to say they've paid me today. So open up their account, and I say they're going to pay me this in full. So again, I can do F3 or click pay in full, and this in full. So I'm going to save that, and it's going to say they will exceed their credit limit. Do I want to change their account status? I've just done that, so I'll put no. And then it says, you have a promised payment of £1,000 for this account. Do you want to clear that? So it's just keeping you right there. So I'm just going to say, yep, I'm happy to clear the promised payment because they've paid me in advance. So I'll click yes to that, and that's that payment recorded there. Early in the training, we had a look how to record money coming into your bank from your customers and posting bank receipts, and money going out via supplier payments and bank payments. But now I'm just going to focus in on the bank itself and look at the different type of accounts, and also have a look at a bank reconciliation, which is used to make sure all of the relevant bank transactions from your physical bank statement are recorded in Sage 50 Cloud Accounts. So the system comes with default bank accounts already, but you can add to these if needed. To do so, always make sure that you're in the bank screen rather than the nominal code screen, and click New. What I'll do is I'll just deselect my bank current account so it doesn't think I want to edit it. Go to New, and it'll give me a blank bank record. Within there, I can give my bank account a new reference. So for this one, I'm going to put 1202 and a new nominal name. So I'll just put new bank account for this. Once it's got its account reference and its name, what I need to do is tell the system what kind of account it is. So a check account is our standard. So that's going to post those bank payment and bank receipt transactions. If I set this as a cash account, it'll post cash receipt and cash payment transactions. And if I post it as a credit card account, it will post Visa payment and Visa receipt transactions. So they all act in the same way. They move money in and out of the bank. It's just they differ in transaction type based on the type of account you specify. You can specify different currencies. So if you've got multi-currencies within your software, you can choose a different currency. I'm going to leave mine as pound sterling, and I'm just going to leave it at a zero balance for now. I can also say what limit I don't want it to fall below. So what I'll say here is I don't want it to fall below minus £300. And here I can indicate if it's not for bank reconciliation. You can set things up like petty cash as a bank account. You can set dummy bank accounts up. And if that's the case, you won't want to reconcile them. So tick this box. If it's an account that you're going to want to check against a physical bank statement, leave this blank and you can reconcile it as needed. On the bank details tab, you can put in, as you would imagine, the actual details of the bank account, such as your account number, sort code, and so on, as well as your address. Within settings, if you have any bank charges, you need to specify what nominal code you want those to go to there, and also which bank account you want to pay those with, department and tax code. And as we've seen in other records, you've got a memo tab, so you can upload attachments there should you wish. I'm happy with everything I've got. I'm going to click Save, Close, and my new bank account is showing in my bank records. Before I post any transactions out of this bank account, if I realize I've made a mistake and the account should have been marked as, for instance, a check account rather than a credit card account, I can come in, change that account type, click Save and Close. Once the transaction is posted out of that bank account, that account type is locked. So do make sure that you check that before you process any transactions. After you've been processing transactions from the bank, such as bank receipts and payments, customer receipts, supplier payments, and so on, your actual bank account will send you your bank statement via email or a paper copy, and you can use a function within the software to check your physical bank statement against the transactions in your Sage software. You can do that by highlighting the correct account and choosing Reconcile at the top, and it'll give you your statement summary. Your statement reference will generate automatically as the bank reference, the date in reverse, and then the number of the bank reconciliation. This is my first, so it's shown 01. It might be that your bank statement has an actual reference on it, so you can add that in if you want. It's then going to ask you what the ending balance is. So what is the balance you want to reconcile to? The last balance on your bank statement. So I'm just going to put mine in here now. The date of the statement, and also because you're not going to be aware of any interest that's been earned or any account charges, you can enter these on that screen and it'll put those entries into your bank account. I'm just going to click OK, and what it gives me is a list of transactions from my bank, which I can then compare to my physical bank statement. So I'm going to say, yep, I can see this direct debit, and then continue to match the transactions I can see on my statement, either by double clicking, as I'm doing here, or by highlighting and clicking match. Any matched transactions will move to the bottom of the screen. And as I go through, what I can do is I can have a look at this match balance versus my statement balance. That gives me my difference, and I can see that I've matched to my statement balance. So it might be that I've got every transaction now that's on my bank statement is in Sage and I'm at a zero balance. What it may be is if you can't match everything, it might be that you've got something on your physical bank statement that hasn't been posted in Sage yet. You can make adjustments at the top. There's no need to abandon the reconciliation. You can add transactions from within this screen that are on your bank statement but are missing from Sage 50 accounts. So you can post adjustments within there. I'm at a zero balance, but what I might want to do is not reconcile yet. I can choose to close and it'll say, do you want to save your changes? If I choose save, what it'll do, if I open up a reconciliation again, it'll say you've got a saved statement. Do you want to go from there or start again? And you can choose either. I'm just going to cancel there. And this time I'm going to choose to reconcile. So what that will do is mark all of those transactions as bank reconciled, so they won't come up on another bank reconciliation because they're not applicable. They've been on a previous statement. If I go into my bank current account now, double click, I can see here my last reconcile date, my last reconciled balance, and in the reconciliations tab, I've got a list of bank reconciliations that I've done in this data set here. And with the applicable statement highlighted, click View PDF, and it will show me a PDF copy of all of the transactions that are reconciled there. Just close that, close out the bank record. We'll have a look now at the management reports contained within Sage 50 Cloud Accounts, and those can be accessed via the nominal codes. So clicking nominal codes in the navigation bar, and at the top of the screen, you can see you've got your trial balance, profit and loss, and balance sheet report. So I'll just talk a little bit about those now. So firstly, I'll run my trial balance. Now, as mentioned throughout Fast Start 1 and Fast Start 2, debits and credits should always equal each other. That's how double entry bookkeeping works. And to see the totals on each of your nominal codes at a certain point in time, you can run the trial balance. So I'm just going to run mine up to June this year. And I can then see the value on each of those nominal codes. So it scrolls down with a list of debits and credits. And when I reach the bottom, I can see that my total debits are equal to my total credits. And that's why it's known as the trial balance. Now the figures that show on the trial balance are shown in blue with this underline, which means that they're drillable. So if I want to get a bit more information about what makes up this figure, I can click on, for example, my purchase tax control account. It will run a secondary report for me, which is my nominal activity excluding no transactions, and that gives me a breakdown of every transaction that makes up the balance that I saw on the trial balance there. So that is drilling down on the figures on your period trial balance to run the nominal activity with no transactions excluded to see what makes up those figures. Next, we'll have a look at the balance sheet. So I'll run that from the top of the screen, again to preview. And this time it's not just asking me what date I want to run it to, it asks me a date from. So what I'm going to do is just to get it for May, I'm going to run it from May to May. For my default layout of accounts, and I click OK, and it brings me those figures. So what it's doing is it's looking at my assets and my liabilities to give me the figure for my total assets less my total liabilities, which you can see here. Then it looks at my capital and reserves, adds that together and gives me that figure there. And notice they're the same. So that's the balance element of the balance sheet there. I've also got it in period and year to date. So it's showing me just for May and then for my year up to May in this column. And the figures again are drillable. So if I want to investigate a little bit more as to what make up those figures, if I click on my debtors category, click on that, it gives me first of all a category breakdown report. If there was more than one code within that range, it would give me a total for each code. On this, I've just got the one, and when I click on that, it then gives me that nominal activity. So it'll show me the transactions that make up that balance. So again, they're drillable reports shown by that blue underline. So that's the balance sheet report. Lastly, we've got the profit and loss. So I've run this report to see for a period whether I'm making a profit or a loss based on the transactions I've raised. I'll run that to preview again. Again, it's going to ask you what period you want it from and to. So for this, I'm just going to say I'm going to run it for March. Again, for my default layout of accounts, click on OK, and it brings me up my profit and loss report. So again, I've got my period column and I've got my year to date. The figures are drillable because it's indicated in that blue text with the underline. And at the bottom, it's giving me my net profit or loss figure for the period and also for my year up to that period, so my year to date. If it had become a loss, notice here it's showing the word loss in brackets. If I was making a loss, the total would show there in brackets, just to make that clear. And to drill down to get some more information, click on the figure. It's brought up that category breakdown report again, and now I can see I've got more than one code on there. So it's showing me the codes that make up the total for my category, and then again drill down into the code to get that nominal period activity.
So that's the profit and loss report. So we've got trial balance, profit and loss, and balance sheet reports all located within your nominal code section. There's two other reports that I'm going to talk about now with regards to what you might want to run at a period end, and they are your aged debtors report and your aged creditors report. So showing you your customers and who owes you what, and also your suppliers and who you owe to. So to run those, firstly, I go into customers, reports, and then aged debtors. And as you can see, it gives me a lot of different options. So you may have a little bit of trial and error till you find the one that's right for you. What I'm going to do is just run aged debtors analysis detailed because I know that's going to give me the most information. Highlight that, run it to preview, and it'll ask how you want to run it. So what date you want it up to. So I'll say I want mine up to January this year. Whether you want to include future transactions and also whether you want to exclude later payments. If you click using exclude later payments, what it'll do is it will show you what was owed at a certain point of time, even if it's been paid off since. So usually it's run with exclude later payments selected. Click OK, and as you can see, it gives me per customer a breakdown, invoice by invoice, of what they owe me and how long they've owed me for. So there's nothing for this account in current, period 1, period 2, or period 3, they've owed me everything for 120 days or more. So that's the age debtors analysis report. And you've got a very similar report for your suppliers, so the people that you owe money to. Back into my reports within suppliers now. Age creditors, again, it's a very long list of reports. I'll highlight detailed, run this to preview. I want it for every supplier, and again, I want it to January. I'll exclude later payments and click OK. And there you go. So it's a very similar looking report, but this time it's by supplier and invoice by invoice, what I owe, and again, for how long I've owed it for. So that's your aged creditors and aged debtors reports. What you can also do against these reports, if you're going to run them each month and you want to access them easily, put a little star against them by clicking on it, and it'll automatically add into your favorites for you. Sage 50 Cloud Accounts comes with a comprehensive list of reports and layouts. By layouts, what I mean are things such as labels, letters, statements, and when you're using Invoicing Module, the invoices that you print or email from there. And it may be that even though the list is comprehensive, you feel like an invoice would look better with your logo on it, you want an extra column on a report, you want to remove some information, and that's where Sage Report Designer comes in. So it's a built-in system that allows you to tailor the reports and layouts to your liking. Now the possibilities really are endless, so what I'm going to do on this session is just show you how to add a company logo onto an invoice. To start, what I'm going to do is just highlight any invoice and then go up to print, into the layouts, and there I've got all of the different invoice layouts. So I'm just going to edit this one at the top, this 11-inch invoice credit unit price with discount. I'm going to preview it first just to see what it does look like. So that's the current invoice. So it's saying invoice at the top, it's got page 1, it's got my date, it's got the invoice number and so on, and then the details, address, and totals at the bottom. So it might be that I know I'm never going to raise an invoice that's more than one page long. So I might not want page numbers on there. I might not want things like the invoice number. What I can do is I can take those off. I can also add things on if I want. So I'm just going to close this, keeping this highlighted, and then going to click on Edit, which will open up the Sage Report Designer. So it's quite a busy screen. What I would suggest the first thing you would want to do is save this as a brand new layout before going any further. So you can give it your own name in the properties section. So I'm just going to put on here my new layout, and then I'm going to go File, Save As. Now it's going to save it in the right location for me, so I can see it's in my layouts folder. So I'll call it here my new layout. Click on Save, and now I know that I'm editing one that I've already saved. So I'm not now on the standard, this is going to be my invoice. So I'm just going to close down properties there, and you can see the different variables that the invoice is pulling through from my data. So it's saying, right, bring me my company name, my company first line and my address, my invoice's name, that address, so the customer's address there, my invoice number, date, and so on. This is my details section here, and then I've got my totals at the bottom. So what I wanted to do was get rid of whether it's an invoice or a credit, and my page number and my invoice number. The easiest way to do that is just highlight by clicking and press delete on the keyboard, or alternatively, you can draw a box around things. Let go and it will select everything that's within that box. I'm then going to press delete, and that's gone there for me. What I can also do now is choose my logo. So to add a logo on, I'm just going to go to Toolbox. I'm going to click Add Image or Logo, and then I need to click where I want it. So I want that there. Then it says, oh, where is it? So what do you want to do? I want to browse my PC for it. Click on OK. That's my logo there. Click on Open, and it's come on, but it's very small. So I can resize it as much as I want there. By clicking and dragging, I can move it around. So I'm just going to put it in the top left there. Sorry, top right. I'm happy with everything else that's on that invoice. So now I'm just going to do File, Save, File, Exit, and run that invoice. So I should now be able to see it in my list of layouts. So I'll just scroll down and I should have my new invoice. Yep, so my new layout is just there. I'll favorite that because it's the one I'm going to want to run most often. So it's now showing it in my favorites. And when I click preview there, that's now running with my logo on. It's not telling me if it's an invoice or a credit, and my page number is gone. So that's just one small possibility when you're using Sage Report Designer. As I mentioned, there's a lot of different things to do and the possibilities are endless. Just a very quick look at the VAT return now to round off this session. Before I go into calculating the VAT return, I'm just going to go into my settings menu, into company preferences, pop my password in there and look on the VAT tab. And the reason for that is I just want to make sure that my VAT details in here are correct, and also that I've got making tax digital for VAT submissions enabled because I'm submitting under MTD. So I click OK there, back to VAT, and I'm going to click on my VAT return. Now, the important thing to say is that the VAT return takes a lot of the manual work away from you. Based on the transactions that you've already been raising and the tax codes that you've applied to those, the system will work out what VAT is owed back to you and what VAT is owed across to HMRC and give you the net amount there. So the first thing it asks you to do is to take a backup, and I would recommend, because a VAT reconciliation is non-reversible, that you do make sure you've got a backup. You can then specify the date range. So I'm just running mine for August 2019. And here we've got VAT verification. So I'm just going to have a look at the settings there and talk a little bit about that. What this is asking your system to do is just check the transactions that it's looking at to see if there's any possible issues with them. So as an example, you can ask it to look for any possible duplicates, any invoices or credits dated within your date range that you haven't updated to the ledgers. There's a few different settings in there, all of which are just trying to make sure that your system is keeping you right. So I do recommend that you run those there. Click OK. I'm happy with my date range. I've got the right settings in there. I choose Calculate VAT Return. And what it's done here is it said 15 transactions have been found for this return. One of these transactions is unreconciled and dated before my date range. So it's likely that this is just a late entry. So I've reconciled my last period, then posted back into it. There's one transaction, so I'm just going to choose to include that. And there it's calculated my VAT return for me. So I can see in each of the boxes, it's put the right figures in there for me. It's also saying that it's found 20 potential queries with my VAT return. So I can view those results. So it's saying you've got 8 invoices or credits which have not been updated, 8 purchase orders which have been delivered but not invoiced. So it's just saying it might be that this is correct, but it's saying these are the things I think you need to check out, and it means that you can do so, and if needed, correct them and rerun the VAT return there. I'm happy with all of those. What I'm also able to do is make adjustments here. So if I need to make any adjustments based on advice from my accountant, I can say I want to make an adjustment, and any of these buttons against these figures, these pencil indicators, mean click there, put your reason in, and you can put your adjustments. You can also print your reports from within here, so you can print the VAT return itself. You've also got a summary report, a detailed report, and any earlier unreconciled transactions report, so you can run as many of those as you want. And then you've got your reconciliation reports. So opening this will bring you through to reports that you can run to check those figures on the VAT return there in case there's any queries. I'm happy with everything. I'm happy with these figures. What I can do, if I want to just check them, for my box one, my VAT due in this period on sales, click on that. It gives me a breakdown of the invoices, credits, and journals that make that figure up. Again, if I want some more information, I can double click on that figure and it tells me that on an individual transaction basis. Close, close. As I said, I'm happy with all of these, so I'm going to click to reconcile my VAT return. It says, do you want to flag these transactions as VAT reconciled? Yes, I do. That means they won't come up in a further VAT return. And there I've got the reconciled stamp. I can post my journal across to my VAT liability automatically based on the figures that my VAT return found for me. I can submit it online to HMRC, and I can record my bank payment all from within this final screen. So that's the VAT return within Sage 50 Cloud Accounts. And as I say, we'll take you through it because it takes away a lot of manual stress and strain. That brings us to the end of the Fast Start 2 session. What I'll do is I'll just talk a little bit around some further support and training available to you. Within your software, in any window that you're in, if you need some help, press F1 on your keyboard and our built-in F1 help files will appear. As I say, it's tailored to the screen that you're in. So if you're struggling raising something like an invoice within the invoicing module, press F1 on your keyboard and tailored help will appear. Also within our help menu, so help and then down to help center, you can search our Ask Sage resource. So as an example, type in opening balances, press search, and it'll bring you up all of our articles that help with entering your opening balances. And if you'd like some further training, these are our offerings. So we've got our on-site training, which is our best loved service, and that's when one of our consultants will visit you at your premises, can take you through any subject you like, and it can also be one-to-one or one-to-many, so they can deliver training to you and your team. We've also got our remote one-to-one consultancy, which is 1 to 2 hours with one of our Sage experts. They'll call you on the phone. They'll also connect to your machine so they can show you how to do certain processes in your own data. So it's tailored to you and it's in your own data. And then we've got our online Sage e-learning, which is interactive digital training available through your PC. It's available for 18 months from purchase, so you can revisit it if you need it. And you can learn at your own pace, so there's no rush to go through it. You can just do it bit by bit if you like. It's got things like step-by-step guides, FAQs, hands-on interactive training, and as you can see there at the bottom of the Sage e-learning section, if you use the code FASTSTART10 because you've been on this session, you'll get a 10% discount on there. We've got a couple of customer quotes there at the bottom, and then the telephone number for our training admin team. So if you'd like to book any further training, give them a call. They'll be very happy to help. That's brought us to the end of the session, so thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the Fast Start to Get Going session, and I hope to speak to you again on one of our further webinars. Thanks now. Bye-bye.